So this is my story about my electric bike, why I use an electric bike, why that is my main form of transportation, how it came to be, and the new electric bicycle that I'm getting today, which will be named Apollo, the god of the sun, music, poetry, prophecy, and healing. This is about Apollo. And also a tribute to Zeus, my old electric bike, which came to me in 2014. So here's the story. Back in the years from 2010 to the end of 2013 into 2014, I was traveling around in a van, which I called Van Gogh, which was my way of getting around all over the country to house concerts, which I was doing everywhere. I did them all the way down to Florida, all the way up to Massachusetts, in the middle of the country, in Iowa and Tennessee, on the West Coast, and many places in between those places. But when I arrived back in Ashland in 2014, that van was in such bad shape that I had to make a decision. Could I put the money into it and keep it going, or should I just let it go? Because by the time I reached this place again, I was quite a mess. I really could not, I could not barely keep myself going. I had just done a nice house concert in Berkeley. They gave me about $1,000, and that was pretty much all I had. And when I came back to Ashland, I came into the park and started playing again. And the van was failing. And it really isn't that easy to operate the park thing with the car, because you have to park the car. So I thought I would just let it go. I couldn't pay for the insurance. The whole thing was too difficult. Pretty soon I had met my beloved Elle. She came to the park. It didn't take long before we had the feels for each other. We were feeling each other quite a bit. And a couple of things happened. Her stepson is a bike mechanic. He's a mechanic of everything. And he suggested a good idea would be to get a cargo bike. And then somehow we discovered that there was an electric bike store in town by this renegade, innovative guy named Jerry Solomon, who showed me a Yuba Mundo electric bike and kind of coached me on how I could put my cello on there. And I gave it a test ride with the cello on it, and it was like, this looks like it's gonna work. And there was a friend of Elle's who offered to buy this bike for me, which is quite amazing. And so I think it might have been about a $4,500 bike at the time. And thus began the career of Zeus. And Jerry kept that bike going in so many different ways. We made various improvements on it. The kickstand had to be fixed more than once. My friend Jason, a metal fabricator, helped put the kickstand back into place. Jerry put a whole new electrical system on it at one point because Bionics, the company that manufactured the battery for the bike, was going out of business. And so it turns out in Ashland, this is an amazing town to get around in on an electric bike. And so it functioned extremely well as my main form of transportation. When I have gigs out of town, I have to get a ride or pay for transportation. But for the most part, I can do everything I need on an electric bike. So about 6 months ago, the motor on Zeus failed, and I didn't know what to do because I did not have the money to buy a new bike. I am able to sustain myself, but saving money is not something I'm able to do very much. So I mostly, during the winter time, just got around on foot. A friend of mine let me borrow his really nice titanium frame bike, and one of the things that I began to wonder is why people ride regular bikes, because it's a lot of work. And I don't know what would possess you to do that. Although it is fun, it can be fun, I understand that. But in this town, actually, there are so many uphill grades. So you find yourself pedaling uphill quite a bit. And so I made it through the winter, but then it became obvious. I thought I was going to repair the bike, but they couldn't find a motor that would work. And I realized the jig is up for Zeus. I have to let Zeus go. And then I undertook a crowdfunding basically on Facebook, because I have 5,000 friends on Facebook, and probably something about 40 people have contributed so far. Today, the last contribution will be made. A friend of mine who just stepped in at the last minute and said, I want to be your bicycle angel, and she's going to pay the balance of a little more than $1,000. It's a $5,310 new Yuba Mundo, very much an improved bike in gold, thus the name Apollo. And I'm going to get it in just a short while. My friend is going to meet me over there and pay the balance, and I will be able to come back home with that bike. And it is such a blessing to my whole life, because I live on a thin thread is really the reality of the situation. And I live on a thin thread, but it is such a beautiful thread. There are so many people who made this possible, and I want to thank each and every one of them there were $10 contributions and $20 contributions and $50 contributions and $100 contributions and $150 contributions and 200 and 500 and more than 1,000. And I feel so blessed. And there's going to be a poem I share. It's by William Wordsworth. I'm not going to share it here on this video. You can keep a lookout for it. It's called The Prelude. But I do want to say one quick word about it, which is that it's about walking out in the morning and feeling like this is the best thing to be here, walking now in the midst of this gorgeous splendor. And towards the end of the poem, he says, vows were made to me. Like I didn't make the vows. Bond unknown to me was made that I should be. Else sinning, a dedicated spirit. And as you can see, I'm losing it a little bit because sometimes it's all too much. So that's the story about Zeus and Apollo and